If someone wants to speak, sometimes you might have to jump in. Zoom meetings are sometimes very hard. So welcome everyone. Call this meeting to order, the Mariner Center Expansion Committee on Thursday, February the 18th, 2021. We have regrets from Councillor Daniel Allen, and I also believe we may have regrets from Councillor Guy Surratt, who's attending a funeral. So that should be noted. You all have the agenda in front of you. Is there any additions to the or deletions to the agenda as circulated? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda as circulated. Moved by Pam. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Nicole Albright. Motion on the floor to approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried unanimously. My apologies for not calling you by your proper titles, Mayor Mood and Deputy Warden Nicole Albright. I try to make sure that I make that a habit, so I do that in all meetings. All right. Item number 3, approval of the minutes. You all have the meeting minutes in front of you from February the 4th, 2021. Is there any errors or omissions in the minutes as circulated? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve as circulated.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gildares. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Warden Danny Muse. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 4, old business. Is there any old business from the meeting minutes? I believe there's one item in there, and that's in regards to the Mariner Center as a place to circulate our agendas and our meeting minutes. So I guess my question to the CAOs and or Duran is, has that been up and running as of yet?
It will be shortly. I'm organizing the first 3 meetings, steering committee and both subcommittee meetings, content now. I had a conversation with Vicki Pierce this morning, just in agreement of how we sort of trigger the content. And maybe I can review it here with the group for a minute here, Mr. Chair.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. I do believe there may be a couple people watching that's not part of the committee, and any information we can give them for transparency reasons, as Mayor Mood had said, I certainly am open to that. So you have the floor, Duran.
So my understanding from when we spoke of this initially was for the benefit of engagement and transparency with the community, let's host at one central location all of our committee meeting documentations and the videos from these meetings as they go forward, both for the steering committee and both subcommittees. And so speaking with Vicki this morning, just how do we set the triggers for when those documents are ready? And versus, we don't want to publish minutes before they're approved because they arrive in our inboxes in draft form. I wanted to review what this group agrees to for when things get placed. So I'd like to create a little section. The way I've outlined it is it'll be a single menu item. It'll be prominent on the website. It'll be labeled expansion or Mariner Center expansion. And as you click into that, there'll be 3 tabs, one for the steering committee, one for the build committee, and one for the bridge. In each section, if there are any key historical documents like feasibility studies or what have you, they're sitting first and second. And then all meeting content would be presented in chronological order, the most recent at the top. So if I'm a citizen, if I'm looking for this, I don't have to hunt and peck across 3 municipal websites to find it. It's there. The most recent is there, and it's easy to find. So that's my understanding of what the intent was of hosting. So if I just get people's feedback if there's anything else on the requirements.
I open the floor to any committee members. Alana, are you wiping your face, or would you like okay.
Yeah. And then, okay, and if that's the case, then I'll just ask the question as I want to be crystal clear. If a document is reviewed on in these meetings, it's fair game to be placed in that date's content. So any document, any letter, and I was getting in my inbox from Vicky or from who's administrating the bridge. It's Vicky for the steering committee and the build, and there's somebody else for the bridge, correct?
CCAO Jeff Gushu has his, yep, I think he's going to answer your
Is
question.
it Linda?
Lindsay?
Lindsay. So yeah, so Lindsay distributes that content. So anything that's shared as a document will be included. And then this is the timing question. I hope, don't mean to go into the weeds of it. Once we leave that meeting, those documents are fair game. We can put them up, and my thinking, as soon as the video is ready, the video and all those documents go live. We hold back on any minutes until they're approved at the next meeting.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the two triggers. And I'm just going to ask in front of this group that Vicky help quarterback the collection of those documents for our purposes here at Mariner Center, and then Linda for the bridge. And once I get those in the inbox, they'll go live within the day. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Any other comments or concerns, questions from any committee members? I do see that Deputy Mayor Steve Barry joined the meeting at 3:39 p.m. So could you please note that in the minutes? Hearing none, is there any other business arising from the old business?
I'll just say to close that off, we'll aim to have that live on our site before we leave the week for the first 3 meetings.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Duran. All right, item number 5, new business, 5.1 Bridge Subcommittee motion. Or am I looking at a wrong agenda? Just bear with me. Bear with me.
That's what I have.
Not what I have.
Yeah.
The one here says February 18th, which is today. And that was on the, that was on, in the invitation that went to your, on your
Right.
calendar, if you accept it, it's in there.
You
I have
said,
a new build. I have the same one, I think, Danny.
Yeah, okay.
Here says,
Yeah, I
Mariner
have-
Center
I have-
expansion steering.
I have, so I obviously was on the wrong agenda item. I see it up there on the screen now.
Yeah.
4 subcommittees. Yeah, I have it up on my computer screen. My apologies for that. So we did the approval of minutes of subcommittees. Item number 4, subcommittees. 4.1, new build subcommittee. The meeting minutes from February the 12th, 2021. You all have those in your packages. I did review them. I just used the wrong agenda to print off. So you all have that in your package. Is there any errors or omissions in those agenda minutes as circulated?
I don't think so.
I have a question on these. Do we approve these minutes, or does the subcommittee approve their minutes?
Go ahead, Victoria.
I think probably the subcommittees will approve the minutes, but they're coming to the main committee in draft form just for awareness pieces and to keep everybody up to date.
Exactly. That was my view. I didn't think we could approve the minutes of the subcommittees because it's their minutes. So.
Yeah. The only minutes we could approve would be the meeting minutes of this main committee.
Just for information for us to see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
Yeah, just for clarity, so those documents are brought here to this meeting for information. and I'm just going back to Durham's earlier question about when minutes become public documents. Are these draft minutes public documents today? They've been tabled at this meeting.
I would say they're not until they're approved by their committee, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong.
CEO Brooks?
So I think maybe I see where Jeff's coming from. You know, these are public meetings and we're having documents attached to the agenda. And so if they're draft minutes and they're not approved, they do form part of a public meeting. So I think the question might be, do we want to see draft subcommittee minutes or do we want to wait till they're approved?
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, then Mayor Pam Mood.
Yeah, and I'm not a parliamentarian, but I mean, my suggestion would be to move things along quickly. I think that the risk is that there's errors in them. But in this case, I think that there's not a lot of uncertainty around it. I think they should be clearly labeled draft until they're not, though. I think for the purposes of this committee, I mean, I really think we do need that information to work on. I don't think there's a big risk in having those out in the public. But the document should clearly be marked draft until such time as they're approved, and then if there is some dispute, we can backtrack in that manner.
Yeah. I agree with that. They're draft minutes. But I know that we put all our draft minutes on our council agenda because the public has to see what we're talking about before they even get to the meeting. So minutes should always be attached to any agenda, and whoever has to okay them, okays them, but they're still draft until the appropriate time.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, just one. The meeting itself was open to the public. The draft minutes are no secret.
All right. Any more comments? None? Move on. It has 6.2, but it really should be 4.2. Bridge Subcommittee. We have in front of us the meeting minutes of February the 16th, 2021. And we also have in front of us, and I do believe those are draft minutes because they have not met since the 16th. Today's only the 18th, so those would be draft minutes. That should be noted. And item 4.2.2, there's a motion that come forward from the Bridge Subcommittee. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. You're muted, Trevor.
Makes for a poor motion being muted. I'll on behalf of the executive committee, I'll move that whereas the Bridge Subcommittee has reviewed options and made a recommendation to the Mariners Center Executive Steering Committee, and whereas the town of Yarmouth and the municipality district of Argyle have made financial contributions for reopening 275 Main Street, whereas the mutually agreed terms of reference call on the Mariners Center Executive Steering Committee to make recommendations to the three councils. Therefore, I move that the Mariners Center Executive Steering Committee recommend to all three councils 275 Main Street be pursued as the option for aquatics and other community recreation programming as a bridge to the expansion at the Mariners Center.
All right. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham made a motion. Do I have a seconder? It's seconded by Councillor Gil Dares. Is there any discussion on that motion? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be done prior to the motion, but I've got a few questions. So I believe that a trust fund's been set up by the town for 275 Main Street, and just how much is there, and should these dollars be added to the to that fund. And we've got 150 committed from the two other partners, and I guess 70 and some amount probably pending from us, potentially. So just some clarity. We need some clarity around what the money can be spent on and so forth. That's separate and apart from this motion, of course. And I guess we should also talk about who's keeping the books, who's going to administer the monies and those types of things. So those are details that we can discuss. But I just did want to put those on the floor. But I think they're things we can discuss after the motion's been passed.
Yeah, those things from my understanding, would be going under other business if there was any other discussion about that.
Certainly. So maybe we can push those down there, and I'll cede the floor to other folks if there are questions around the motion.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? If there's not, I'd entertain a question on the motion. Warden Danny Muse.
No question. I was calling for the question.
All right, questions being called. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Just looking, motion carried unanimously from my count. All right, so that motion will be going forward to the councils for their next regular council meetings, I believe. I'll make sure that it's on the Municipality District of Yarmouth's agenda.
Yeah,
Sure.
we're
Yes, go ahead, Mayor.
just going to call a special meeting, just for time's sake.
Okay.
I mean, we've already done it, but we just don't want to have to be waiting another month to get moving on this, so.
Yes, our next regular council meeting's on February the 24th. And we'll be dealing with that then. All right, we'll move on. Item number 5, other business. Deputy Warden Cunningham, you had posed a couple questions. So I'm wondering if you're willing to pose them here now, or is there any other thing that any other council or committee member wishes to discuss? Deputy Warden?
Sure, certainly. Yeah. So I guess we talked a little about a trust fund that the town had set up, which is a good thing. And is that where the dollars are going to rest from the other two partners, and any potential dollars we might contribute as Municipality District of Yarmouth? I guess that's the first question. Maybe we'll take them one at a time and have people comment on them as they come.
CEO Jeff Gushu.
Yeah, so I would just say that I think we'll see if we have consensus on the bridge, and then I think the bridge committee is going to have some work to do. I don't think it's clear, how to answer that question for Councillor Cunningham today. If we have consensus on what the bridge is, I think the bridge committee's got some work to do to figure out the how. Once we know what the what is.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, to CEO Jeff Gushu. Thanks, Jeff, and I know we've got a number of questions to work through, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We're starting to move in the right direction. So thanks so much.
Okay.
Second question. So the other two partners have contributed the $150,000 to this point, and there's some details around that aren't necessarily clear, but no matter, just some clarity around what those dollars would be spent for, maybe initially, and it may take more dollars than that, but that's a good start for sure. So can anybody provide some clarity around what the first steps would be in terms of expenditure?
Go ahead.
Yep. So I think the next step, if we have consensus on the what, is to convene a meeting of the bridge committee and scope out a work plan of what actually has to be done and the decisions that'll need to be made in order to execute the decision. And as we talked about at the Bridge Committee, there's going to have to be some work done around business plan and budget and so on. Planning what is actually going to be offered. There's a report on the condition of 275 Main Street. We'll have to dig into that, have a look at that. And we have an intermunicipal agreement I assume we're going to have to create. Lots of work to do. And I think some of that work is going to require outside expertise. And I believe, but it's a discussion for the Bridge Committee, that some of these funds would need to be freed up to fund that work. So, but all that, Trevor, is, sorry, shared through Trevor, all that is kind of speculative and presumptive on my part. I think that the Bridge Committee needs to meet and have that discussion.
And Mr. Chair, that being said, so the third question, and it's just, and again, these may have to be answered over a longer period of time, but the third question is, you know, we've got 3 partners in there. I guess it's a question around the financial management of the project. We have 3 units, and I'm not certain just what process we'll use to arrive at that. Perhaps I'll leave the question at that. I mean, maybe it's more about a process to arrive at that decision as to how those funds are managed and in terms of oversight and so forth. Again, through you, perhaps through you to whoever can answer that question, Mr. Chair.
Anyone? Jeff, your microphone's still on. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Again, I think that's a discussion that we can have at the Bridge Committee. I assume if we have the 3 CAOs present, participating, as well as the committee members, we can arrive at how we can satisfy the bookkeeping on this.
Oh, excellent. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mr. Gushu, it was excellent answer, and looking forward to getting the work done on the Bridge Committee. Your elbow is well exercised, putting up your hand, I see there, so it's all good. Thanks.
CAO-LMUs.
The only thing I'd add through you, Chair, to Councillor Deputy Warden Cunningham is that and a part of the commitment that Argyle has made had COVID in mind. So there'll be some safe restart related funds associated with that amount. So I say that to you only that that might be part of your discussion at your own council table, whether, you know, how that looks for your particular decision is entirely up to you. I just want to inform you that part of the 75 did contemplate COVID related restart, which we have earmarked. At least a part of that will come out of our Safe Restart Fund that has been distributed to us through the NSFM. So it's the only thing I would add to that might be in some way different than how the town may have interpreted their own 75. I leave that to you and your council for information.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. And all the comments were helpful. Thanks.
Anyone else? Madam
Pam.
Mood.
Yeah, so I guess I just interpreted the 75 as being put in a pot to help get 275 reopened. And then I guess I was thinking that the Bridge Committee would have to figure out what that's going to take. And my hope was that it would be left with the Bridge Committee and we wouldn't micromanage that, because that's what they're tasked to do. So I guess I just said, here's the 75, and I put my hands up, said, go at it. So that's where I was.
Madam CAO Brooks.
So the notion is that the community has put some money into a trust, and Argyle and the town have made commitments, and Modi's going to consider that same thing. So we know that the town, it's $75,000. We know that Argyle, it's $75,000. how much money is in the trust that the community has raised?
Do you want me to go
Yes,
ahead?
go ahead, CAO.
So I want to, before I tell you the answer to that, I want to preface it with context. So when the YMCA closed or announced their permanent closure, many people in the community were upset and concerned about the closure, and some people wanted to reach into their pocket immediately and give some money to somebody. We established a trust account because we felt that it was best that those funds be held in a public purse rather than somebody else stepping in and collecting under the name of some society that may or may not have a connection to a reopening of the facility if that were to occur. So we opened a trust account. Nobody did any fundraising. Nobody solicited donations for that fund. We only accepted them as they came our way, and we made the public aware that the fund was there, but we were not soliciting donations. Nobody ran a fundraiser or bake sale or anything else to collect money to put in that account. So with zero effort, and I say all that because I don't think that the amount in the trust fund is in any way indicative of the community support for the initiative. And I think we've guarded closely the balance from the public because we're concerned that it would be mistaken to represent community interests. So there's roughly $10,000 in that account that people just parked there out of interest, but don't confuse that with a fundraiser because it was not.
Right, understood, Jeff. No, I appreciate that.
Is there any more questions or comments on that item? Thank you very much, Jeff, for that. And I do know that there was no soliciting by anyone. There was a need for the community to want to help, and I certainly appreciate that answer that you gave the committee, because there was some misinterpretation on unfortunately on some social media sites that there was, and I already knew the answer to the question before you had answered it. So I'm glad that that had come out, and you're absolutely right that in no way reflects any the support of what's about to happen or what needs to happen, because we all know that there's a need for a bridge and there's a need for a new build, but from my understanding that was a good move. So thank you. So is there any more questions or comments in other business? Hearing none, moving on. Next meeting. We've been tentatively scheduled them every 2 weeks. So with that said, 2 weeks time from today would be, as soon as I pull up my calendar, March the 4th. So is March the 4th good for a tentative meeting date for everybody, the same time? 3:30 on March the 4th? So are we all in agreement on that? I see all thumbs up. So we'll set that as a tentative date. With that said, last item of business, I guess, is a motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Nicole Albright. Motion on the floor to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Minded. Thank you very much, everyone. We're off before 4:30, which is kind of surprising to me. Have a good day and Godspeed.